Why, hello there, I'm Professor Joel, and welcome to another episode of Planet Scooby Reviews. Today we are covering Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Werewolf, and this is episode 7 of season 2 of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And it originally aired on October 24th, 1974. This episode sees the gang on a camping trip at night where they encounter a werewolf. As far as trivia goes, this episode's the first to have the Mystery Machine shown, but actually never driven in an episode. So that's a pretty cool first. This is also the first episode where Velma, Daphne, and Freddy encounter the werewolf before Scooby and Shaggy do. And by werewolf, I just mean any ghost or monster in general. Usually it's Scooby and Shaggy that encounter it, but this time, not the case. Also, this episode references Laurel and Hardy, which is pretty cool as they both turn up in the new Scooby-Doo movie episode, The Ghost of Bigfoot. I've already reviewed that episode and I'll leave a link to that below if you're interested in seeing that review. Is Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Werewolf a howling good time or a giant hairy mess? Let's find out. The episode begins with a wolfman howling at a full moon. We then cut to the gang who are out on a camping trip and are feasting on a few hot dogs before turning in for the night. While eating, the gang hear the howl of the werewolf.
What was that?
And also see his glowing red eyes in the forest. Thinking it was just a wolf, Freddy decides to go look for it and they find some tracks. Velma finds the tracks unusual as it only shows 2 feet and wolves are 4-legged animals.
Judging from the size, outline, and general configuration, I would say they are definitely the tracks of a large wolf. Wolves are 4-legged animals, but these were made by a 2-legged one, a werewolf.
Realizing they've discovered a werewolf, Velma insists they continue following the tracks where they come across an old graveyard. Here they find an open grave with an empty coffin alongside a tombstone that reads, "Here lies Silas Long, half man, half wolf." More tracks lead away from the grave and Shaggy remarks that it's just not a werewolf they are up against, but a ghost werewolf. Much to his disappointment, the gang decide to follow the tracks once more, which leads them to an old mill. Looking inside, they discover the mill is abandoned and filthy with dust.
Ooh, what a scary place.
Deciding to split up to cover more ground, Shaggy and Scooby are the first to confront the werewolf, who is silently stalking them as they search around. As the werewolf is being stealthy, they never actually see him or notice him, and Shaggy triggers a trapdoor that launches the werewolf away. Meanwhile, Freddy, Daphne, and Velma discover more tracks that stop at a wall. Freddy guesses there must be a secret entrance and they discover a secret room. Inside the room they find a map of the area with 3 X's on it. One of the X's says mill.
It looks more like a map of the general area around here. There's 3 X's marked on it. One says mill.
The werewolf pops into the room and frightens our trio.
It's the werewolf!
So they run off where they once more run into Shaggy and Scooby. A chase song emerges and we get several gags between the werewolf and Scooby and Shaggy. After the chase, Shaggy and Scooby end up covered in wool. The gang also finds several empty barrels with rubber tubes sticking out of the top. They hear the howl of the wolf once more, along with a rail cart that runs from the mill to a shipping dock. Freddy and the girls search for where the cart came from and Shaggy and Scooby run off to the boat. Following the rail into the mill, Freddy, Daphne, and Velma spot the werewolf but end up getting locked in a room by the werewolf. At the barge, Scooby and Shaggy run into the werewolf as well and use their normal master disguise tricks to evade the hairy monster by giving him a haircut. It's a hilarious gag that continues to pay off as the werewolf has a nearly shaved head for the remainder of the episode. Eventually, Scooby and Shaggy end up in an underground tunnel which leads them back to Velma, Daphne, and Freddy. The entire gang head back to the barge and discover a room full of barrels. There they find the werewolf pulling a barrel out of water and they hear a sheep bleeding. Freddy and Velma have now figured out what is going on, so Freddy decides to set a trap. The trap does not go as expected. However, after an intense boat chase, the werewolf ends up stuck in a waterfall.
Help! Help!
The sheriff shows up and explains the werewolf was a sheep rustler. So there appeared to be a gang of sheep rustlers who were catching the sheep sending them down the river in barrels and shaving them and then selling them on the black market. The whole werewolf thing was just to scare nosy people away. I give this episode a 7.5 out of 10. This was a frustrating episode for me as they set up the spooky atmosphere right away with the beady eyes and the howling of the wolf. And yeah, those beady eyes, those red eyes in the forest. And the gang, they come across the coffin that's opened up in the open grave, and they read it and they find out it's like the ghost of the werewolf, and they go into the mill and it's all dilapidated and haunted like and full of secret passages. But then the chase scene happens really quick, and I think from there the episode just shifted to more of comedy for me. The chase scene just kind of ruined the spooky atmosphere for me. And this episode had such greatness to be a really scary episode. And I understand it's for kids, but I just thought, this could have been a little more spookier. And it went funny. And I did appreciate the gags, especially the haircut gag where the werewolf, he's got the shaved head for the remainder of the episode. I thought that was really funny, actually. But another frustrating thing with this episode is that the wrap up is just like 30 seconds long. The bad guy, he doesn't go, "You meddling kids," or say anything, and you don't see the other sheep rustlers. And they catch him, there's no unmasking, and then it's just like over. And usually, you get like 2 minutes of the gang talking about everything, but none of that in this episode. I do realize it's early on, still in Scooby-Doo, so they haven't set the tropes yet, but that was a bit of a disappointment. There's also no suspects in this episode. That's not the first time this happened, but again, there was no mystery. I did appreciate the whole sheep rustling operation where they send the sheep down the river. I am a little concerned, though, that the sheep might go down the waterfall if there's no one there to get them. So, poor sheep. I feel bad for you. Anyway, next week we will be covering the Wax Phantom episode. It will be my last episode of Season 2 to cover. And then I'll be shifting to Season 3, or what's called Season 3 of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, according to the DVD and box sets for the Blu-rays. It's technically the Scooby-Doo show, but because for the last 20 years it's been packaged as the DVD and Blu-ray as Season 3, I'll just call it that. I guess in theory I should cover the new Scooby-Doo comedy mysteries, which are the guest star 40-minute format of Scooby-Doo. And I do have that on Blu-ray, and I could cover it, but I think I'm just going to do Season 3 for now of Where Are You?, because a lot of people do have the box set and they are familiar with these episodes. I also want to thank everyone for their likes, subscribes, views. It really keeps me going, and I'm glad people are watching my episodes. I upload these around 6 a.m. every Saturday morning for just because that's usually when I used to watch Scooby-Doo as a kid. It would be about 6 in the morning. And usually within like 20 minutes, I get like 4 or 5 likes. So thank you for everyone liking it that early. That's really cool of you. You're the best. And thank you for anyone who just watches. And I guess until next week, stay spooky.
What was that?